This is a video on what are the best cards in each class. This is a little bit subjective, but for the most part, it should be right. Starting with Death Knight, I have no Muncher and Mining Casualties. I think that every single Death Knight deck, no matter what, should be running Mining Casualties. It's just so big. It provides so many corpses. It's incredibly powerful for fighting on board. If you have things like Grave Strength, it gives you more bodies for your Grave Strength. It's just a great card overall. And then No Muncher is really, really powerful. I think that almost every single Death Knight deck should be running it as well. It's definitely the slowest of the cards that are going to be on this list, which says a lot about Death Knight. There aren't very many Death Knight cards, so it is a little bit harder to pick from. Mining Casualties definitely is number one, but you could maybe argue something is better than No Muncher. I would not be surprised. No Muncher really is powerful, though, in the fact that it pushes damage, it heals you, and it's hard for your opponent to get over as an aggro deck. And sometimes that is just good enough, you know? Then for Demon Hunter, it's kind of in the same story. There aren't as many good Demon Hunter cards that are on the same level as a lot of these other cards, but definitely one of them is Mana Burn. This card should go in actually every single Demon Hunter deck, no matter what. There's not a single Demon Hunter deck that should not be running Mana Burn. It's just so good. It's such a non-cost. 1 mana is not very expensive, and you completely shut out your opponent's turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, completely shut them out, and that's huge and wild. Being able to do stuff like that, or if you build a big board in, say, Questline Demon Hunter, you can then make it so your opponent has 4 less mana on the next turn for only 2 mana, or less because you've discounted this, and then they can't clear your board, and it's a great way to push lethality onto your opponent. The second card I chose is Sigil of Time. This card is very strong, yes, but I would not say it's even as close to the same level as Mana Burn or Mining Casualties. It's probably closer to No Muncher in terms of power level, where it's just a really good card. You should run this in most Demon Hunter decks, but it's not like a super broken card. It's just a good card that gets run in almost every deck. Then you have Druid. These two cards are actually run in every single Druid deck. If you're trying to win, you want Aquatic Form, you want Moonlit Guidance. I don't think there's any Druid deck that shouldn't be running these. I guess if you're playing Odd Druid, you don't want to play it, but that's not because they're bad. It's because they're even cost. Moonlit Guidance gives you unreal levels of flexibility and draw. Sometimes you draw a draw card off of this, you play it the same turn, and then you draw like fucking 6 cards in a turn. It's crazy. Aquatic Form, I mean, it's 0 mana, draw 1. Obviously, this card is good. It lets you dredge to see if like there's things on the bottom of your deck. 0 mana dredge is also just very powerful to begin with. Obviously, this card is fucking cracked out of its mind. I mean, do I need to explain why 0 mana draw a card is great? I don't think I have to. Then you have Hunter. Hunter is a little bit more contentious because I'm a firm believer that Dreadscale is the best card in the entire class. Bargain Bin, no question, though. This card is so goddamn good. It's made Secret Hunter come back completely. It's made Reno Hunter an actual meta threat deck. It's just insane. You obviously are running Dreadscale in those decks, but Dreadscale is just unreal what it does to the class. Hunter has pretty mediocre removal overall. It's not terrible, it's not great, but Dreadscale does so much. You can get multiple Dreadscales from things like Selective Breeder, so you have multiple ways of clearing the board. It is incredibly cheap. It's the cheapest complete like board removal in the entire game. It's 3 mana because Serpent Bloom also costs 0. No other like hard removal for the entire board in the game costs that little, except for like I guess like if you were to like no, what am I talking about? Because Treachery costs 3 mana. I was thinking like Treachery and Doomsayer, but no, Treachery costs 3 mana, so it's not like that. It's unreal how strong this is. I'm sorry, I'm rambling because like I love Dreadscale, it's so good. I mean, Bargain Bin is also the best draw card Hunter has gotten probably ever. Actually, it might be better than Buzzard. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's really freaking good. Buzzard requires a lot more setup, and it doesn't even really draw you into anything because you require so many beasts to do it. But Bargain Bin's crazy good. I think that if you're ever trying to play Hunter, you need to craft these cards. For the other classes, I'd say it's pretty similar. You need to craft those cards, but especially for Hunter. Mage, obviously it's Ice Block. I mean, like, come on. Ice Block's one of the best cards ever printed. Ever. It's obviously going to be Ice Block. I think the second place card in Mage is actually very tight, what it could be, but I'm going to put Reckless Apprentice because I think that Reckless Apprentice is so good in Hero Power Mage that it's like, it should be that. Hero Power Mage is pretty good right now, actually, as well. And this is like it's such a good card in that deck, is why I think it should go here. You can make the argument for something like Ignite, Ignite, or what's it called? Sorcerer's Apprentice, but I'm like for that because that deck's really good. You could have said the Quest before it was nerfed, and that would have been fine, but I think Reckless Apprentice should probably be on there. This is one that, again, you could definitely argue like what it should be. I wouldn't be surprised if people had other thoughts, but I think Reckless Apprentice is a crazy card. I think if you had a card similar to this in concept in other classes, it would be insane. Like if it was like, Battlecry do blank at all enemies based on what the class is based around. Obviously, if you put that in Hunter, it's great, but depending on what the class is based around, you could make a card like Reckless Apprentice, and it would be nuts for every class. Then you have Paladin. This is going to be the first three-way tie on the list. These cards are all nuts. Prismatic Beam is one of the best removal cards in the entire game. It's 1 mana, deal 3 to all enemies. Fucking crazy. Call to Arms is one of the best board building cards in the entire game. It's 4 mana, summon 6 mana worth of minions, and you thin your deck. And if you have something like Liadrin, they'll come out with Divine Shield and Rush. Just insane card. There's so many powerful 2 mana minions that Paladin has access to. It's insane. And then Resistance Aura. This card was slept on for a long time. I thought it was crazy. And then guess what? It's really good into Rogue Stone. So of course it's great. It's just such an insane card. 2 mana, your opponent's spells cost 1 more for 2 turns. Like, Cold Neophyte is a good card for doing that for 1 turn. Yeah, it also has 3/2 body, but the fact that Resistance Aura does it for 2 turns really locks out your opponent from playing. It makes it so you can set up even more locking with cards like Razor Scale or Speaker Stomper or Loatheb or Forensic Duster, things like that. You can lock your opponent out so hard they can't play any cards. It's just insane. This card is actually the nuts. Then you have Priest. Churgeon, probably the best card in the entire class. It's so nuts. Every single deck that wants to run Churgeon, it's the best deck or card in the deck by far. You would play this in like Aggro Priest, Shadow Priest. You play it in Zarimi Shadow Priest. You probably could still play this in Reno Priest if you wanted to. It's probably not amazing there, I will be honest, but it's crazy. Reno Priest is more of a one-ofs deck, so it's not really like a card like this could shine as much. Same with Radiant Elemental. It wouldn't shine as much in Reno Priest. However, Radiant Elemental is the same as it's always been. It's been 2 mana, which Sorcerer's Apprentice got nerfed to 4 mana, so you can understand how powerful this effect is, right? And it somehow hasn't gotten nerfed. We've had multiple times, recently, especially where Radiant Elemental is really fucking good. I think that this card is always on the radar of being broken, because it's unreal levels of mana cheat from Radiant Elemental. There's always a world where this card breaks the game, and it's always something we have to look out for, and as more and more powerful cards are going to be getting printed, especially spells, especially draw spells, Radiant Elemental is just going to get better and better. When we had Anduin's Gift come without... Oh, no. Well, you saw the Rogue one. Anyway, that one was obvious, but let's remember. But when you had Anduin's Gift come with the new gift set, it obviously broke this card. It was so good. It was 2 ticks for your everything, actually. And then it was just great card draw. Insane card. Now we're on to Rogue, I guess. Obviously, it's Secret Passage and Gear Shift. Currently, there are 4 Tier 1 Rogue decks, and these are the only 2 cards in all 4 of those decks. It's unreal levels of draw for the class in every single way. There's also the interaction of playing Secret Passage into Gear Shift, and then you'll get those... you'll just get 3 cards. I would have put Shadow of Demise on here as well, but I feel like the fact that Shadow of Demise isn't always these cards makes it not that great. When you top deck Shadow Demise, you don't really have anything to play. It's kind of bad, unlike these cards. These cards you want to be top decking with no cards. That's where they're at their most powerful, and it's just really fucking good. They're just so good. It's unreal. Secret Passage already was nerfed. It was actually 5 cards on release. It's probably getting nerfed down to 3, and then it'll still be good just because of the fact that you're 1 mana draw 3. It doesn't matter if they go away at the end of the term, because if you play them, it doesn't matter. If you get more draw cards off Secret Passage, it doesn't matter. It's just great. Gear Shift, I don't think will get nerfed. It might get nerfed to 2 mana, but I feel like it would still probably be good at that mana cost. I just don't know what you would do for these cards, to be honest with you. Then you have Shaman. This one is definitely going to be the most controversial of them all. Totemic Might is the best card in Even Shaman, by far. It's so goddamn broken. People like to talk about Totemic Surge and how much damage it pushes, but Carving Chisel and how it builds a lot of boards, or, the Stone Right and damage pushes. None of those matter if your board gets cleared. You know what prevents your board from getting cleared? Giving it +2 health or +4 health to your entire board for 0 mana. None of those attack options matter if your board is dead. So Totemic Might is unnatural levels of utility for the deck. Same as Charge-In, where they just make it so your board can't be cleared as efficiently, and it's so hard to deal with if you can get these out. There are games where your opponent will play like, where they'll Pyroblast you with Totemic Surge for 0 mana because it'll deal 10 damage, and you'll still win because you can just clear it the next time. But it would be if you had the other way around, if Totemic Might, they couldn't clear it. It would be nuts. Just unreal. And then, of course, Ice Fishing draws one of the best removal combos in the entire game of Flurgle Tox, which is why Ice Fishing is so good. I'm already highly rating Dreadscale for being so good at clearing the board. Flurgle Tox, yeah, it costs a little bit more mana, but you have Ice Fishing to tutor it. You can't tutor Dreadscale Bloom like you can in Hunter. So putting Ice Fishing here definitely makes a lot of sense to me. You could argue it'd be a lot of things. It's not Shutterwalk. I don't care what any of you want to believe. Shutterwalk is not a good... Let me rephrase. Shutterwalk is a fine card, but it's not the best card in its own deck. Shutterwalk is one of the worst cards in Shutterwalk Shaman. It's just that sometimes you need the late game bomb of Shutterwalk, and then it wins you the game. But like every other card in Shutterwalk Shaman is better than Shutterwalk. That's been a meme that we've been talking about for a long time, but it is just true. Then you have Warlock. Warlock, I chose Kobold Librarian and Dark Glare. Librarian has been in literally every single Warlock deck that can run it since it's come out. It is... No other card can have that, distinction. It's unreal. There's no reason to not run Kobold Librarian in every deck that can run it. The only decks that didn't run it were Darkest Hour, which couldn't run it, and Evenlock, which literally can't run it. Unreal card. And then Dark Glare, it's been nerfed twice. It's still broken. It's one of the most efficient mana cheat cards ever printed. I'd say it's on the level of Radiant Elemental and Sorcerer's Apprentice, but on top of cheating mana, it also is so efficient in triggering your Demon Seed quest or, your giants. It's just really, really, really broken. Anyone that would have said Demon Seed should be in this slot is just uninformed. Yeah, Demon Seed is good, but it's good because of the enablers in the deck, like Dark Glare, like Kobold Librarian. Then for Warrior, I have another 3-way tie. Armorsmith and Risky Skipper are so 1-in-1 hand-in-hand that they have to go together, in my opinion. Yeah, yes, Razorfen Rockstar is technically on this list, but Razorfen Rockstar is a lot newer, and technically, it's only just a replacement for Eternium Rover, which was in that slot to be before Rockstar came out. I think that, these cards just... so good. They provide so much removal. They provide so much healing. They provide combo. They do everything you want. You want to be tutoring Risky Skipper with your Ankar and things like that. It's just so good. And then, dude, Shield Shatter is 0 mana, deal 5 to all minions. Obviously, it's one of the best removal cards ever printed. Come on, dude. I don't need to explain why it's so good. If you're not running this in your Warrior deck, you're either, hyper drawing or, you're just not playing correctly. I don't know what to say. And then you have Neutral. Obviously, it was going to be Patches and Zephrys. Obviously, if you've ever played a game of Wild, you know these cards are in most of the decks. Every Pirate deck forever and has ever run Patches, and Pirates are the best tribe in the game. They have been for a long time, mostly because of Patches. And then Zephrys, Reno decks are always good. Zephrys is the best Reno synergy card ever printed. It's so, so, so powerful. New Reno is what, how do I put this? Zephrys is what people in Standard think New Reno is. Zephrys is so broken. You can coin him out to get Wild Growth to play on 2. You can get removal. You can get damage. You can get lethal. You can get Flare to remove secrets. You can get Jaraxxus to go into the late game. You can get healing. He's just everything. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife card, and he's so good at what he does. You have to use him properly because he does have bad AI, and people do know that. So he isn't an easy card to use a lot of the time, but even the most surface level use of Zephrys is a good way to use him. And then I want to put Razor Scale up for a top 3 in neutral cards. I think this card is unreal levels of good, especially into Rogue, and Rogue is the best class in the game currently, and will be for a while until things get shifted. And every time we have good decks that rely on Mana Cheat, Razor Scale just shuts them down. It's a thing that we're going to have to deal with in Wild, is that Mana Cheat is at an all-time high, and decks that can Mana Cheat will just keep getting better and better and better and better. Look at Hoover on Hunter, right? Hunter didn't have Mana Cheat, and now it does, and it's really good. Who could have guessed? So Razor Scale keeps those decks in line. I think that if your deck needs just a slotted card and it's a Reno deck, or it's just a slow deck, or it's like an anti-combo deck, you want to be running Razor Scale no matter what. I think this card literally only gets better as time goes on, and it's just so powerful. It's so good. 2-4 stat line is fine. It's 1 point below normal, and it's a dragon, which has, you know, other synergies in other classes. I think it's pretty clear that Razor Scale should be put up with these two giant meta threats in Patches and Zephyrus, and it's not even funny. In conclusion, what do you guys think the best cards are in each class? I think that these cards are pretty good. I'd say that maybe only 2 or 3 of them could be genuinely argued, and I wouldn't even fight back. But yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Rising again!
Darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the Hall of Explorers